Welcome
to Unapologetic and Free, where sisters discuss. Sisters by blood,
friends,
but friends by choice. Welcome to our very first talk show. Again, we are so thankful that everybody is tuning in to hear what we have to say and what we're discussing. I'm Sharnae Okeke. I'm the older sister.
And I'm Lekia Peters, the younger sister.
All right, today's episode, we're going to be talking about mental health.
Yes, I'm excited about mental health. And we actually have a special guest that's going to be joining us today throughout this episode. And I'm going to go ahead and welcome Miss Wendy Figueroa into our session. And we're going to give her a minute to log on and get in here and get her camera set up so we can see her face. And so we're just excited again while she's getting set up to log in and get her audio. We're just going to be discussing mental health. Again, unapologetic and free. We're not doctors. We're not claiming to know all, be all. This is just a discussion that we're going to have
between two sisters that, like we said, we share the same blood, but then we're also friends.
Yes. All right, we have Miss Wendy Figueroa. We can see her now. It looks like her audio is still trying to connect, so we'll give her a moment. Okay, can you hear us? Looks like you're on mute. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. We've already let our viewers know that you're with us today, and we just want you to share a little bit about yourself.
No, I can't see her. Oh, she has to start talking first, and they'll probably switch over, right? Because I see you.
Hola.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I was going to say, this is the official meeting. Wendy,
yes.
This is my sister.
Yes, I'm the more older, beautiful sister.
Okay. I got that.
So how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good today. Today's been a good day. We've had electricity and water, so that's good.
That's a positive and a plus.
Right?
We're talking about
I am digging your glasses.
Thank you. Thank you.
They are different and unique. That's why I like them.
Thank you. If you
want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Wendy, just tell us a little bit about yourself or what you want the people to know.
My name is Wendy Figueroa. Hello, San Antonio. Hello, other viewers. Hello, the world. Really quickly, hold on just a second. I had this all prepared. Here we go.
Right.
So, born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. I am a proud 51-year-old Black woman.
Yay.
I have 2 kids, a girl and a boy. Girl is 29. The boy is almost 21. I currently work at Beat Aids, and I've been there for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years, April 1st, 2021. I have a bachelor's in media communications and one in psychology, and another one, an associate's in hardware systems management. Other than that, I love to cook, write poetry, and travel.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Thank you. Welcome.
Look, I learned something. Look, as a co-worker, I didn't know all of that. Okay.
I like the travel part.
I keep it under wraps.
Yes. You said what's your name?
I said I like the traveling part.
Yes. Now, at this time, we want to do a little segment called What Are You Watching? And at this time, Sharnae, why don't you tell us about a show that you're currently watching?
I have so many shows that I'm watching and that I'm trying to catch up on and stay current with. So I'm watching This Is Us. I'm excited because the new season has started. I'm also watching Snowfall. I'm excited because I believe this week the new season starts. I'm also currently watching Queen Sugar. I haven't been able to watch the first episode, but I'm working on it. And then Grey's Anatomy, have faithfully watched it. And Law and Order SVU, I'm currently watching. What about you? That's a lot.
Here, I was only prepared to just talk about one show that I'm watching, right? Because I have a whole lot of shows, but I am going to choose to talk about The Equalizer. That is a new show, right, with Queen Latifah. They aired it on Super Bowl Sunday, and that is just something recently because it came on Sunday, but we missed it. But we were able to watch it on our on-demand, so we watched it last night. So it's really fresh. And what I want to say about that show is I like Queen Latifah, right? And so I'm not knocking it at all. I love the movies Equalizer, but some parts, it just seemed like they doing a little too much. Like, come on, really? Like, really? And she looks great. I'm not saying anything about how old or anything, but it's just some of it is just like, come on, this doesn't look real. Like the fighting scenes and the action scenes, because she's supposed to be the CIA agent, and it's just kind of like she just did like that, and the people got knocked out.
So they acted.
Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. But I'm digging it. I'm gonna keep watching it. Again, we only like 2-3 episodes in, and so that's what I'm currently watching. Wendy, what about you?
I'm like Charnay. I'm kind of watching a lot of shows. I don't think I'm as deep as Charnay, but I'm a little probably more. I think what it is for me is with everything going on, I just kind of want something light. So I watch Mixed-ish, and I watch Grownish, and I'm actually doubling back now and going back through and starting from the beginning, but watching Blackish.
Oh,
and
so
then,
you with the issues.
I'm an ish, yeah, you know, I'm doing it. I like the issues. And then the other show is Designated Survivor on Netflix with Kiefer Sutherland as he's actually the president on that show. But it's starting to be scary because as I was being entertained through seasons 1 and 2, our government started to mimic exactly what was going on in the show. So I had to back up off of it a little bit, but I'm in the middle of finishing season 2, going on to season 3. So between it and CNN is keeping me busy. So those are my shows.
Well, that is, I am definitely a mixed-ish. I watch all the ishes. I started watching Blackish when it first came out. I think I heard that they're about to make another spinoff of the ishes. Yeah, Oldish with the grandparents. So we'll see. They might be ishing it out, but I'm gonna watch all the ishes because I like the issues.
I like the issues.
So that's just something we want to try to do just to lighten up the mood, but we are here to talk about mental health. So I'm going to go ahead and transition into that. And I want to open up by just reading the textbook official definition, right, of mental health, according to like mentalhealth.gov. It says that mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from our childhood, adolescent, all the way through our adulthood. And so we always know the textbook is always what the official definition is, but we want to get what our own interpretations of mental health is. So Wendy, would you like to go ahead and tell us, what does mental health mean to you in your own words?
To me, mental health means to an overall state of one's minds and thoughts. That's what it means to me. Interestingly, that you picked out a definition, because I had gotten one from Merriam-Webster's, and Merriam-Webster's defines it as the condition of being sound mentally and emotionally that is characterized by the absence of mental illness and by adequate adjustment, especially as reflected in feeling comfortable about oneself, positive feelings about others, and the ability to meet the demands of daily life. And after I read that description, I thought, well, yeah, we're all going to have mental health issues, like everybody from the jump. But yeah, that's what it means to me. What about you, Charnay?
For me, I said that mental health is making sure that I'm thinking in a rational, insane thought process, that I am in control of my mental, emotional, spiritual, my total being. You know, I'm at I don't want to say normal, but operating. I'm not just existing, that everything is working the way mentally and emotionally the way it should be.
And you know, when I was thinking about, okay, what does mental health mean to me? Really, the only thing I can come up with, even right now, is just the word stable for me. So emotionally stable. That means my emotions, I'm at a place where I feel like they're stable and they're balanced. But you know, how we handle stress, right? It says if I'm stressed out, do I feel stable in this stressed out or in this situation I'm going through? Or do I feel like everything is all over the place like I did today? And I'm just not, I'm not in a good mental health space. Or when I lack joy, right? Because joy sometimes is based on situation and circumstance, they say. But I just go back to just a stable mindset overall, with job, with family, marriage, life, who I am as a person. Do I feel like I have a healthy mental state where I'm stable and I can think clearly? Really, that's kind of what I thought about when I thought about mental health. And it's so interesting because with anything, right, we know that there's a different definition, different interpretation of everything. There's always a textbook, but then what does it mean to you? And then what it means to me is not the same as what it means to you.
Right, exactly.
People, we don't know how to interpret mental health. We just use that word. But what about the people who don't know what is mental health in order to say whether they're healthy or not, or whether they're stable or not, because they can't get past the word mental health.
Because the new buzzword or the stigma word is mental, you know, health. And that kind of leads us into our next question is, Lekia, can you share a time when you struggled mentally?
Yes. So again, that's stable. There was a few years ago, I don't even know how long it was ago, but I was not stable in my marriage, meaning my thought process behind my marriage. I didn't know if I wanted to stay or go. The situation that I was in was stressful. I was the only one working. There was kids that needed to be taken care of. Finances were low. And it just seemed like all the pressure and all the responsibility was on me. And I couldn't sleep. Right. So I went to the doctor. I can't sleep. They gave me these pills, like these sleeping pills. I want to say it was melatonin or something, maybe. I can't remember, but they gave me these pills to help me go to sleep. And then as I'm starting to take these pills, I'm just having these thoughts of like running away, like saying, okay, you know what? I'm about to run away. I'm going to change my name. I'm going to go to a whole nother place. I'm going to take my kids and we just going to go and I'm going to just start over. And so the more I thought about that, I'm like, okay, this is not right. Like I can't run from my problems. Right. Well, thankfully at the time, I don't know if I used my jobs like the employee, right? Or if I had insurance where it covered mental health. But I said, you know what? I need to talk to somebody because another thing was I was in a whole nother state. I didn't have any family there. I was with my ex-husband's family. And so again, it was nobody there that I felt I could talk to. So that's what caused me to say, you know what, let me look for some professional help. And so I did that. I reached out, I met with a counselor. The place actually ended up being walking distance from where I live. So it kind of eliminated those excuses not to go, right? And so I found myself sitting on a couch, talking to a stranger, just telling her all of these issues, right? And some of it was just me babbling and me just talking, but then her asking me questions that I had never considered. And the end result was me deciding what I wanted to do for me and then coming up with that plan to not run away, but to go and talk to my spouse at the time and let him know, hey, this is not working out for me anymore. I no longer want to be in this situation. I, just was able to face it head on. And afterwards, I felt a weight lifted, right? Because I had opened up and I had to say, at the end of the day, this is not working. I need to leave. And I was able to, my sister thankfully was there and I had a place to go. So I was able to move back to Las Vegas and really work on me. And that marriage, we ended in divorce. But again, just being able to have that opportunity to go seek a counselor just to talk, to help me figure out what it really was that I wanted to do. So that was something, an instance of where I had a mental health experience, I guess.
Okay.
I struggled with it, but I was able to seek professional help and deal with my issue.
All right. What about you, Wendy? To answer the same question, when was the time that you struggled mentally?
So also several years ago, my marriage, it was failing. So it was failing, and it was my first marriage, and I felt like I was failing. It ended up just basically being like depression, just serious, deep down, dark depression. And I got so low to a point where I felt like I felt like it would be a whole lot better for everybody else involved if I wasn't here. And so I went down the dark road of trying to commit suicide. And out of surviving that, right? I didn't seek help. I didn't seek professional. I didn't do anything. What I did was completely introverted into myself, telling myself, like, okay, you survived for a reason. You didn't die. You weren't successful in your attempt. So that happened for a reason. So what's the reason? And so I started to then look around me and notice the same things that I thought would be better off if I wasn't there. I started to then say, no, like I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here for a purpose. My kids do need me. They're not going to be better off without me. My parents aren't going to be better off without me. And my friends and the rest of the world isn't going to be better off without me. So I did a mixture of some spiritual things and some, I guess you would say maybe self-help. I turned basically to the Bible, 2 other religious books, and 2 books by Iyanla Vanzant, and literally whooped my own butt. Right? That's what it was. I whooped my own butt. I tore myself down, but not in a negative way. I tore all the things down that at first I might have perceived as a right, to then realize that not only was it a wrong, but it was these little bitty problems, these little bitty issues. And I started to tackle them one by one using the Bible and the spiritual help books, and then Iyanla, I kind of combined them and used them and started to fix things about myself. Once I started fixing things about myself, everything that I originally thought before was a reverse. So now I'm having the reciprocal of effect. So for those, that's what I did in my deep, dark moments. And so for me, when I see other people and I know that that's kind of where they're at or that's where they're headed to, I try to tell them, focus on you, not focusing on you being a problem, but try to focus on you so that you can see how you can possibly turn that situation around for the betterment for you and everybody else around you.
That's good.
That's good. That takes some real a strong mindset and yes, some work to be able to do that.
Yes, and to whoop your own butt. I like that. Whoop your own butt.
Yeah.
We know. For me, mine is most recently. So I'm married to a Nigerian, and for the past 5 years, I have been living in China. And so last year, this time, we left China to go on vacation to go to Nigeria because I wanted to, visit meet my mother-in-law before she passed because she was, you know, elderly. So when I went to Nigeria, I was only supposed to be there 2 weeks. 2 weeks because of COVID turned into 8 months of being there. So I'm still in the mindset of, okay, I'm on vacation, you know. They speak several languages in Nigeria. So my husband is from the Igbo tribe. So they speak English, but they also speak Igbo. So I started telling myself, because if I didn't hear English, then I knew they weren't speaking to me because they would be speaking in their native language. Okay, well, I'm in the mindset, I'm going back to China. I'm going back to China. But now here we come, the 3rd month. Now I can't take it anymore because I'm feeling isolated and alone because the language around me, I don't understand what's being said to me. And I would constantly say stuff like, speak English, speak English. And then after a while, I felt like you guys are becoming disrespectful because you know you have a foreigner, as they would say. You have someone that's not Nigerian and you're constantly speaking another language around me and me having to say, speak English. And then when you tell me, oh, well, it's just, you know, it's so much easier for us to just speak our native language. But for me, I'm like, that's rude. That's rude. You're disrespecting me. And so I could be in a group of people, but I'm still alone and I'm feeling isolated. So after the 3rd month, I'm messaging Lekia. I'm like, I have to get out of here. I'm ready to go. I'm like crying. I'm upset. I'm like, you know, they would apologize, but then you would start off English and then 2-3 minutes later, boom, you right back. So I felt like a lot of times, especially if I heard Trump, okay, now you're talking about where I come from and me. And so now I'm taking it as if you're talking about me because you're saying Trump, you're saying the US, but you're not telling me what you're saying. So after a while, I said, you know what? I prayed about it and I said, God, I need help. And so I went to my husband and I said, I need a tutor. I need somebody to start teaching me this language because I can't go another day and not know at least some basics or whatever. So school got out, and during that time, we have a 16-year-old niece. And so I had went to her and I was like, okay, Auntie, Shar needs you. I need you to start teaching me Igbo. And she was like, okay, Auntie. And she had no idea that she could even teach or be a teacher, but she learned a skill that she didn't know that she had it in her, you know, and she's teaching me and she's giving me homework, not to mention my profession is a teacher. So not only is she's teaching me, but then I'm teaching her how to write her lesson plans and how to create tests and stuff. So it was a win-win situation. But if I hadn't had some type of healthy, I don't know how I want to say it, if I didn't have some type of, if I wasn't a fighter, I wasn't a fighter, then I would have gave in and gave up and probably would have I'd have been walking from Nigeria back to wherever. But that was a really difficult time for me. And I struggled mentally. I struggled physically because I couldn't eat the food that I wanted to eat. There were times where we didn't have power, you know, so I had to really adapt. And as Americans, we don't know how blessed we are. We don't know. So that was my experience with struggling mentally.
And so what I heard from all of our stories is, as different as they were, we all had to do something. So whether mine was to seek professional help, spiritual self-help books, prayer, asking someone for help, we all had to do something. But with that being said, I want to know personally, what are your thoughts on seeking professional help? So for me, obviously, right, I already took advantage of seeking professional help. But Sharnae, personally, what is your opinion on seeking professional help?
Personally, I would seek professional help, but I think I would really start with my inner circle first, basically saying, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm struggling with. I need help. Now, after talking to my inner circle, if the things have not changed, then I'm going to say, okay, whether it's going to talk to a pastor, it doesn't necessarily, somebody that has, some type of counseling type situation. So I'm all for it.
What about you, Wendy?
I agree. I'm all for it. I think it's needed, and I think it's necessary, because we deal with a lot of trauma,
Yes,
we got a whole, we have a whole, we're not even thinking, I don't think people think about it this way, but we have a whole nother situation where just last week, you're going to have kids that are going to freak out when the lights go off, because then they're going to figure out, are they going to come back on? I don't think people think about certain things and how they affect everybody, but I'm a proponent for it, definitely.
And yeah, because a lot of times we say, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Oh, I don't have to worry about that. And then last week was unexpected, because I'm in Texas too. I'm in Dallas. So last week was unexpected. And when you thought like, oh, okay, there are people who didn't have power, who didn't have water, who didn't, was outside, didn't have shelter. So you can't never say never.
Right. But we know there's stigma, right? We talked about that stigma of seeking professional help. Do we feel like in 2021, we're still at a place where it's still stigma, and whether Black, white, whatever race, we don't want to admit that we want or need professional help? Go ahead.
I think that, I think it's better. I think we have come a long way into thinking that, yes, that, that's something that's an option. But I don't think we're 100% there yet. You know what I mean? I think more people than not would be at least swaying towards going to do it. Now, whether they're going to do it or not, those are, other things that we had to think about. But I was thinking about this topic this morning, and I'm like, mental health has been an issue for everybody, but it's been an issue for Black people for real, for a long time, because we don't like the stigma, and we don't like certain labels, right? But how many of you grew up with somebody that your grandmother or your great grandma, your auntie told you,
oh, they was touched in the head?
Touched. He can't fight. He's special. Him slow.
Yeah.
What were the other words I was thinking about this morning?
Can't get right. He just can't get right.
Yeah, just can't get right. What was the other word? It was.
They need to get a crazy check. They should be getting a crazy check.
Definitely get the crazy. All of those euphemisms and words that somebody lets you know somebody else had a mental problem. Those are the people that we knew something wasn't quite right, but we're not taking them to the doctor. We're not taking them to the therapist. We're not taking them to the specialist. Look at just in a sense how mentally challenged, has gone from him being touched or slow, right? We have so many different differentiations about mentally challenged, right?
Yes.
About how that person back in the day could have been an artist, or could have been the next musician, right? But because it wasn't looked at, it wasn't treated, it wasn't talked about, now that person is what, 56, still walking around with the mind of somebody that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Something could have been done to handle that. So we've got to get to a point where we get past the stigma and not wanting the check because I don't want to be labeled as mentally challenged, or I don't want to be called that name, or I don't want to be this. We got to come out of that.
Do you think that another reason why, as Black people, we may not go to seek a therapist, or because we have a phobia of doctors? How many of us don't go to the doctor regularly? So now I don't even go get my checkups regularly. And now you asking me to go and see somebody for that may be tinkering in my head. No, I'm good.
You know what, to piggyback on doctors, we just went to a symposium a couple of weeks ago where that was one of the things where there is a phobia. There's a stigma. There's also expectations based on Black patients that don't really even exist. They think we have a higher pain tolerance when we don't. But the other thing I was going to say too about not seeking help is we got to address the level of insurance not carried by Black Americans, right? And we've got to also talk about the cost, and we also have to talk about the racism in the medical industry, because a lot of times people don't quite understand the insurance languages and they don't understand the terms. They'll tell, and I've seen it, they'll tell a underprivileged person, whether they're Black, white, or brown, based on their insurance, we can't cover that. Yet you do actually cover it. So we have got to be abreast on what we're looking at, what we're signing, what we're paying for. But at the same time frame, we also got to get to the point where we have it, that we even have it at all.
Right. The other thing too is, and I know this takes it's another level of, even when we don't have the insurance, when we talked about doing something, am I willing to invest in myself enough to pay out of pocket? Right? Because if we think about how much we spend, and this is unapologetic and free, how much do we spend on a purse? How much do we spend on shoes? How much do we spend on eating out, even depending on what it is? That same amount of money, right, that you could be directed towards, okay, I'm gonna just go and pay for my sessions out of my pocket because I want to do something about it. So that's another conversation, right, that people need to have, that are you willing to invest in yourself enough to go seek the help? And, you know, when you don't have that insurance, right?
But then with that goes back to what Wendy said when she said that she got the self-help books. Like, there are so many, and now we live in the world of, like we're doing now, our talk show, you know, so we got podcasts about mental health that you could be listening to. We got YouTube videos. So the resources are there. Is just for the person, like you said, to invest in themselves. So even though you may not want to go and pay for the professional, there's other resources that you could be using that are free.
Right. Now, Wendy, did you want to go ahead and elaborate more on about having the conversation about health issues in our broken past, or do you feel like you covered that already? I know that was something that we had discussed prior, but if you want to elaborate more, you can definitely go into that.
It kind of goes back to what Charnay said. We have to be open to what's available, right? And a lot more is available now than what was available back then. So hopefully we don't hear Big Mama, we don't hear Pookie say, you know, stay away from him because he got some issues, and you keep him in that back room and don't nobody say nothing. That hopefully we're getting away from that, where Pookie can come on out the closet and we can take Pookie to the doctor and we can figure out what's wrong with cousin Pookie, as opposed to knowing something's wrong, but we don't want to hear what the actual diagnosis is. That goes back to like where we don't ever want to go to the doctor. Now we know Big Mama had cancer, and we know Grandmama had cancer, and we know Uncle Benny had cancer.
So it's hereditary.
Now I'm having some issues, but I don't want to go to the doctor because I don't want to hear I got cancer. Whereas you might have cancer that they can zap real quick and you got 20, 30, 40 years to live, as opposed to you eating all that time up because you don't want to hear that you got cancer. You think not hearing it makes you not have it.
Yes.
So if I don't go get my mental health check, I don't have mental health problems. I'm cool. I just spaz out sometimes. I just get beside myself, or I got a temper. That's how. Yeah, but you probably are also bipolar too. We need to talk about that. We need to we need to get that. And we're that way because of something we haven't healed from in our past. And that could be our life past, or it could be our generational past. We got to start. I mean, like I said, if you go by the Merriam-Webster definition, we all have mental health issues. So we all probably should be laying down talking to somebody. Wow. At least once a month, even if it's just to vent. Because we all have friends. Sometimes you talk to your friends, they're not listening to you. They're not paying attention to you. They worried about their
nails. Have their own,
Yeah, they worried about their nails, or they worried about their hair, or they have their own problems and they're just not hearing you. So when you finish at the end of your statement and they say, huh? Oh, girl, I'm sorry, girl, what'd you say? Right there, you feel a disconnect because you like, girl, I done sat
doing all this talking.
Right. Talking to you, and so now you're shunned. So I'm not going to talk to my best girlfriend. Well, let me see if I can talk to Miss So-and-so over here at the church. And Miss So-and-so got so many things going on, and she got to gossip and here. She not listening to you either. So then we all get to the point where we sitting at home, we got our loved ones around us, but we don't talk because we just feel like nobody's listening. So at best, just on everybody's personal, just go to that person. Yes, you got to pay them, but that's what they get paid for. Pay them, release, relate, and relax. And when you get back in your car, you go home, you feel a little better. I didn't do nothing but talk about how John don't take out the trash when I want John to take out the trash, and John not taking out the trash is on my nerves so much to the point where I'm yelling at John because John don't take out the trash. Tell that person, pay $35, pay $70 once a month, and tell that person, John don't take out the daggone trash.
I agree.
For
the sake of time, Sharnae, do you want to go ahead and talk about timely manner? Your question.
Oh, yes, that's right. So I have a question, Wendy. What do you do when you reach out for help and no one answers in a timely manner? So what is the time frame of timely manner?
There is none. Timely manner sets an expectation. If you asking somebody else something or talking to somebody else, you can't have an expectation on when it is they're going to actually answer you. What you do is set the expectation right off the bat. Lekia, I'm going to ask you, is Mr. Peters going to have that barbecue sauce ready for me on Saturday by 3? She can either tell me yes or she can tell me no. But if I just say, y'all gonna have that barbecue sauce ready for me on Saturday, her answer to me might then be yes. Now at 12 o'clock, I'm calling her and I'm saying, Lekia, I'm finna go come pick up my barbecue sauce. She may not be ready then. I can't set her expectation for her answer. I have to phrase it in a way that I'm making her hit me with my timeline. because I have a timeline, or I want to impose a timeline. So I got to hit that person with it. But nah.
Right. And
now,
even
what about, go ahead, Lekia.
I was gonna say about professional help. When you reach out, let's say you reached out to the provider, and let's say they can't get you in until 2 months from now. And a person says, oh, well, I reached out for help, but I didn't get it in a timely manner because their first available appointment was 2 months from now. What do we do then? Does that?
In my personal opinion, you had that problem before that 2-week appointment. So if that person that you want to see can't get to you in 2 weeks, either do one of two things. One, try to find somebody else until you get to that person, or write it down. Keep writing it, keep writing it, keep writing it, because at your 2-week appointment, you could take that journal with you and you could start from there.
Okay, so journal writing. In the meantime, write out a journal. A lot of people don't like to write. I'm a writer, but a lot of people don't like to write. But sometimes I say too, record yourself. People get caught up in, oh, I don't like to write. But you can record what you want to say and keep it between you and keep it somewhere safe if you just need to get it out, right? Or so you don't forget. And I never say, right. And to each his own, like people have their own reasons for why they did what they did. Like if people commit suicide or, they feel like, nobody knows that situation that person's going through. But in the way that we live today, I just realistically, you can't say what's a timely manner. And then again, if that person's not available, if maybe that's where your insurance had, right? Then, okay, I got to find somewhere else. I might have to pay out of pocket until my insurance place kicks in, and then I can get that appointment or whatever. But I don't know. It's just tricky to say what's a timely manner, because even going to the doctor, right, with your physical body, you don't, unless you go to the emergency room, right? And even in the emergency room, sometimes you have to wait. There's a waiting game with everything. But again, it's just hit or miss when we're talking about mental health, and when you're at that stage where you're ready to take your own life, maybe, and you felt like you reached out and you just didn't get the help that you felt you should get. And so you did whatever you had to do. It's just no way to say for sure. Go ahead.
I agree with everything that you just said. And again, there's hotlines that you can call that are 24 hours. Even if I've seen, we've watched movies where we've seen people call dispatch at the police station, and or the fire department, and they're just talking to them because they're at their last, straw. And so again, there's so many resources out there that people can utilize to make themselves become more stable until they can get the professional help that they need. Wow.
This is so good, but I have something else I want to, and we're moving on to open discussion, right? And so when I was researching for this and preparing for it, I just found this random book on Amazon. So it's not even worth mentioning who it's by or anything, but it was something very key in the book that I wanted to share. And I'm just going to read it. It says, depression. When we communicate our emotions, we say, I'm down or I'm depressed. We expect to interpret those one-word descriptions. So we want other people to know that when I say I'm down or when I say I'm depressed, that the other person knows what that means. But then it went on to say, when I say I'm depressed, I'm leaving the receiver's interpretation wide open. And I cannot assume that my definition of the word is universal. And I thought that's so good, because we oftentimes just say, I'm depressed. Well, what does that mean you're depressed? Does it mean you don't feel like eating? Does it mean you can't get out of the bed? And we expect people to know, like, and I'm not knocking it, but we see people say all the time, oh, I'm depressed, and nobody cares. But what does that mean when you say you're depressed? And how often do we just expect for people to know what we mean by I'm depressed?
But then a lot of times people don't know themselves what that means. They can't explain it. They can't, because even with my students, they just can't express themselves fluently to get, or they don't have the vocabulary to tell you what that means to them. Adults all the time. And then also too, like my husband and I, we both speak English, but we speak two different, which I learned by going abroad. He speaks British English, I speak American English. So even with that, though, there's two different, something that I'm thinking he's meaning isn't totally different than what, you know, he's interpreted. So I had to learn and say, okay, what exactly are you asking me? I don't understand. You know, can you explain it to me? Because the way I'm thinking is, I'm pretty sure it's not the way that you're taking it. And he's like, oh, okay, this is what, you know, I mean, or whatever. And so a lot of people just don't have the vocabulary to express what they want to say.
Go ahead, Wendy. What do you think about that? And just using that word depression as a word that we're just supposed to assume what it means.
Do you have a way that you're going to probably get comments on this?
Yes.
Okay. This is probably going to be a real comment grabber. Depressed people aren't going to tell you they're depressed. That's an attention person. Somebody wants attention when they say, oh, I'm depressed. That they want attention. Depressed people aren't going to tell you they're depressed.
Unapologetic and free. Okay, sorry.
Completely unapologetic on that one, but yeah, they're not gonna tell you that.
And I never thought about it until I read that. It just jumped out at me when it said we want people to interpret that. And when I, you know, in the times when I felt like I was depressed, what that meant for me was I was preoccupied with myself and everything that was going wrong, right?
How many
and
people did you tell that you was depressed?
Myself, I would say to myself, I'm just depressed. I'm just depressed. Because normally when I use that now, I just communicate, oh, well, I'm tired or I'm stressed out about blah, 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 blah. Because I've been trained long enough, I typically don't use that word depressed at all. And I was taught, won't even say where, that depression is just a preoccupation with yourself. And when you take that thought and that's off of you, then you won't be depressed, right? And then personally, I've taken on the stance of what's right instead of what's wrong. So I try to focus on what's going right. And every now and then I get stressed and I need to vent and things are, but whenever I revert back to, well, it could have been worse, or well, at least I this, or at least I was able, that redirects my thoughts in order for me not to stay in a place where I'm just constantly about what I don't have, to where I would feel like I was depressed.
Well, but again, someone taught you that, because even now in my class, every morning, the first 45 minutes, we're going over morning affirmation, words of affirmation. So I'm teaching my kids how to do positive self-talk to themselves, because they need, this is something that is going to help them mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, if you start saying good things about yourself, because as we know, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So if you are speaking good things are about yourself, is going to get you, like you said, Lekia, out of that thought process of, you know, being preoccupied with myself.
Well, this has been a really good discussion. Like I said, we could go on and on. We know,
yes,
we could go on and on. I want to thank you, Wendy, for joining us for our first official full episode about mental health, unapologetic and free. We want to thank our viewers for tuning in and watching the whole thing. Hopefully, you know, we shared something. Sharnae, would you like to say anything?
Please watch and comment and share and share and share. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank God for you. Yes.
And on our next episode, we plan to talk about We plan to talk about relationships, and we're not just narrowing it, we're leaving it open to all types of relationships. So the co-worker relationship, the husband-wife relationship, the sibling, the cousin, the family member relationship, the child-parent relationship, the
relationship with the grocer.
Right, the friendship relationship, all of that. So we just want to cover a broad aspect of just relationships in general. I will say this for our viewers, if you're interested in being a guest on that show, if you feel like you have something to contribute, or you just want to hang out with Unapologetic and Free while we talk about relationships, please comment on this video. You can email us at unapologeticandfree2021@gmail.com. If you know us personally, I always say just reach out.
Say, hey, Shar.
We'd love to consider
talk about something. I have, some experience in some area, and hey, we are all for it.
So we want to thank you guys. We're going to go ahead and close this session out. Thank you for tuning in.
Wendy,
everyone,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the feedback. And